Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session to help you awesomize your portfolios. We have today, so a quick introduction. I'm Javier from Astrolabium. Some of you know me already, like we have done a couple of those sessions. And we are providing coaching and training to UXers. And I'll hand over the word to Nina to introduce herself.
Okay, hi. I'm Nina. I'm a user researcher. I am the co-founder with Javier together of Astrolabium. And I'm going to keep it super short today and just hand it over to Aneta maybe to introduce herself quickly before Javier can then tell us what this show is about today.
I have a slide about me a little bit in the presentation, but quickly, my name is Aneta, UX designer based in Oslo. I'm a founder of Be Your Own Design Team community and recently launched my first course about portfolios. That's why I'm here to share with you all the insights from my research about portfolios. On a daily basis, I work as a freelance designer as well these days, and I do some content online. So maybe you have seen my face somewhere. If not, hi, super nice to meet you all.
Cool. Well, now I just learned that it's Aneta and not Anita, so I will...
Yeah, that's fine.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. So we... found Aneta on LinkedIn, basically saw that she was doing a lot of things about portfolios, and we had heard a lot through our coaching and through LinkedIn that a lot of people are struggling with their portfolios. So I reached out to Aneta and said, like, hey, would you be willing to do a session like this to help people? She was immediately game. So that's why we organized it. This is a session to try to help you with your portfolios. And then I will do like half an hour more or less of like a crash course, downloading some of the info she has. She also built a course that you can subscribe to, that you can take. It's a self-paced course. I'm sure she will tell more about it. And so we'll get some information about that. And then the second half is Q&A. We gathered questions. We have them. So we will ask those questions. Some of them will be answered by Aneta. The questions that are more about research portfolios might be handled more by Nina and me. And that's it. Let's not waste more time. The stage is yours, Aneta.
Super excited to be here today. Thank you, Nina and Xavier, for inviting me today. I am very honored to be able to talk about portfolios because I really like this topic, although it wasn't from the beginning. It came to me naturally through like all of the iterations I did with my own portfolio and the research I did on this topic as well. Anyway, I already introduced myself a bit, but about the portfolio context maybe a bit more. I spent the last year many hours on this topic. I talked with many hiring managers. I talked with many designers, helped them with their portfolios, saw a lot of struggles. I struggled myself also in my career with portfolio. Also analyzed a lot of portfolios to actually build the course, but also to basically learn about this topic because I know how painful it is. But this presentation is, of course, not about me, but about portfolios. So I want to give you as much as I can in this short time. So I will kick off this from introducing you to some common problems, just so that we are all on the same page, why this topic is so painful and why so many of us struggle with this. Then I will share with you the aha moment that I had in my process and in this research process, and that I share also with designers and researchers on how to think about this whole process when it comes to your mindset. Of course, I will give you a process on how I do it and how I recommend you do it doing your portfolio. We'll wrap up with some key learnings. I will tell you where you can learn more. And of course, there are a lot of questions waiting for us. So actually, let's maybe speed up. Portfolio problems. So why is it so hard? Well, depending on your career level, you can have different problems, but it also varies because portfolio consists of a variety of skills like storytelling, visual design, and so on that we need to learn. And sometimes we can learn it at the beginning of our career, sometimes in the middle, or I don't know, somewhere later. So when you are a junior, for instance, you have not only struggles connected with portfolio, but also you're just after UX education and you are experiencing your first times, like first UX projects, first UX portfolio, maybe first rejections, first successes. It can be quite hard, to be honest, and pretty stressful. It's a bit of a different situation for more experienced folks because you already are on a job, you work in a real business environment, you know the context, and you know that this beautiful process that we are taught at school about UX, like double diamonds and so on, doesn't necessarily work fully in a reality, and definitely might not work as a story in your portfolio. As a junior, I think the most common problem that I've seen so far was that people don't have experience and skills. They usually obsess about this. There are, of course, other problems when we create portfolio for the first time. We don't have those skills about storytelling, for instance, right? This is, for instance, my example on my first portfolio. We can see a lot of problems here. I'm a designer, by the way, so there are a lot of visuals here, but they're not super high quality. I struggled with visual design initially, and of course, I struggled with storytelling, as you can see on this screen in the middle. I was trying to show the perfect process, which is not what actually sells. For more experienced designers, it depends, because it really depends what you have managed to learn throughout your career. As you can see on this example, those examples on the left, there are a lot of different ways of creating your portfolio. People come with different projects. They also tell stories differently, show visuals differently. So it really depends what can be your key problem. But why it is like this? Well, imagine that you are a designer or researcher coming from B2B products, maybe some fintech, sustainability, I don't know. You have a set of experiences from those contexts. If you're a designer B or researcher, then for instance, you might come not from B2B area, but from B2C, where maybe you have worked on mobile apps and your skills can slightly vary compared to this designer A, right? Because, for instance, assuming that this designer A coming from B2B might have some strong systemic thinking skills. B2B pros tend to be more complex, more maybe heavily on web design, and maybe those experiences from those industries that I've mentioned here. Whereas, for instance, for this designer B or researcher B, they can have strong craft skills, maybe strong mobile app design skills, right? If you're a researcher, this could be, for instance, those areas where you research. You might know more about individual customers research, marketing research, I don't know, compared to this designer researcher A, right? So your experiences vary. And with those different experiences come also different skills and different problems. So I think the first topic that you should think about when you are creating your portfolio is, what is your current situation? What is, what are your past experiences? With what are you coming right now to this portfolio creation today? Because this determines what you can actually show in your portfolio, also where you can apply, right? And another problem that can, topic maybe, that can cause some problems depending on what type of career goals you have right now. So what is your next dream job? Imagine that you are this person, designer, researcher from this bucket A with B2B experiences, and you want to switch to B2C. Then there is the question, right? How many of your skills are overlapping this B2B area, if you would look relevant for a hiring manager or not, right? So then you might need to maybe look for some project in this B2C area that you don't have right now. and this is a problem, right? Because you don't have it, you don't have maybe time, the market is very competitive, you can't find maybe a freelance gig for this, so it causes some additional struggles. Third bucket that can also create some issues is, of course, market needs. Right? I don't know, a few years ago, I remember when I was applying with, okay, maybe not a few years ago, but a bit more, when I was applying with my first portfolio, I was showing this very strict double diamond process in some of my projects, which wasn't really fully true in this real projects that I had. I was still getting interviews. I was, even though it wasn't like high maturity organization, I was still talking with some recruiters. Whereas right now, I feel like from people I coach that it became a bit of a struggle because it depends what the market needs, right? For instance, at some point they might have needed more research skills, like for instance for a design role, and right now there's a heavy focus on craft skills, growth design, AI comes also as a topic here as well. And for researchers, it can be also something that the market needs right now more, and businesses need more than, for instance, before. And it can cause some problems depending on what is your background and skills. Another bucket is about the constraints. So, for instance, I remember once in my career, I found a job that I really liked. I thought that, okay, this looked like a great opportunity for me. I found it on Friday, and the deadline for applications was on Monday. Of course, as you can guess, I didn't have a portfolio. I mean, not an updated version, at least. So I had a time constraint, and you might have it as well. You might be also in a, I don't know, specific life moment, or you might have also some personal things going on. So there are a lot of things that can impact your situation when you create your portfolio, and also depending on what's happening around you, what you do when it comes to your application process and so on. Another bucket, which you probably can guess, different portfolio opinions, very common one, and we tend to complain about this, but I can touch upon this later. There are different opinions about portfolios as well as processes. Of course, the process I'm going to show you today is based on my own experiences, the research I did, and the coaching with designers. And there can be another person coming with a different approach and also a different opinion about your portfolio. But we all know we are all like those users we design or we talk to about their problems. That's why some hiring managers have different opinions. That's very natural. And then we have the mindset. Which might seem like a very little thing to think about, but to be honest, it can be very impactful on how you approach the portfolio creation process. If you are stressing, if you can, maintain like this portfolio creation process, if you can generally go through it. There are a lot of things coming from the mindset part. So those things can also impact and cause some problems for you. So as you can see, there are a bit more problems than just storytelling, than just storytelling or visual design or something like this. But what was this aha moment? As you can probably guess, it was connected with the last problem here, last topic, this mindset. What I would definitely encourage you to think about when it comes to your mindset and thinking about the portfolio creation process is that you're the boss. You're the boss of your portfolio. This is your product. You lead this, you own it, and ultimately you decide. So for instance, if you get a lot of various opinions about your portfolio, it's ultimately on you to decide what you're going to implement, what you like, what you don't like, right? This is your product. Hold this power, own it, because it's actually a great thing. Not everyone can own products when we work and we are on the job. So that's the first one. The second one is that if you're the boss, if you own this product, you also define it. This meaning that you shape your profile, you decide what you show and what you don't show, and also how. So of course, I will tell you a bit more about the market needs, but this is on you to decide and to define it. And also to take the risks, because we are, sometimes I feel like we're afraid of taking the risk when it comes to this job application process, which is very natural, right? We care about this, we are stressed, and when we create a portfolio, it's our product, and creating your own product, it's like so stressful. You're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. You want this to be ideal. And then when you're applying with this portfolio, you actually don't know, okay, should I implement this feedback from this person or from that person, or maybe how you should go about different constraints. For instance, like I had this time constraint with Friday to Monday, like 1 weekend to create a new portfolio. There was my constraint, and I had to take a trade-off decision. For instance, because I didn't have a website, and I didn't know if I should have a website or if a PDF portfolio would be okay, because some people criticize the PDF version, and I made this intentional decision. Okay, no matter how hiring manager, recruiter will react to my format, I am deciding to send a PDF because it saves my time and I can focus on storytelling. So there are those different moments where you need to take a risk because, I don't know, of your constraints or something else. So these are the three points. And the last one is, of course, there are those people, users like hiring managers. So you still need to keep an open mind to what's happening on the market, how hiring managers, recruiters react to your portfolio. If you're getting any feedback, that's amazing. You are quite lucky, I would say. And then you need to figure out, okay, what are your needs versus what the market needs, right? And find the overlapping moments. So these are the 4 key learnings, I think, for mindset that I definitely recommend you to think about. But what about this process of portfolio? Well, first of all, taking this learning about being your own boss, owning the product, defining the scope and everything, you also need to treat this project like any other UX project. No matter if you're a UX researcher, designer, at whatever level of your career are, you need to treat it like any UX project. So your hiring managers are your users and recruiters, right? There are some competitors, like everyone here can be your competitor if you're applying for the same job, right? So for instance, if you benchmark portfolios, sometimes people get obsessed about this. This is so nice portfolio, mine doesn't look like this. Compare if you're, if this is the person will come to the same company as you, if you're targeting the same organizations or not, because, someone coming from B2B versus someone coming from B2C, as an example, they can have different products, different screens to show, different experiences, right? So these are the things to think about and not get obsessed as well. Know the market needs and also know your constraints, right? Because then you will be able to make your intentional decisions. And of course, get to know your users. You need to always emphasize and think about, okay, is it too long? Will they read it? Is it like, am I showing the value? Am I optimizing for time to value? Meaning that I am showing and communicating my profile as a researcher or designer clearly, quickly, so that they can grasp it, they can understand it, and they don't need to mull it over. Not mentioning all of the stuff connected with accessibility of your portfolio, meaning if you are sharing the password, if you have a password protected portfolio, and so on and so forth. Then we have the second point, which is probably, from my observation so far, coaching designers, the most difficult. And also, to be honest, for me, it was also quite difficult. It still sometimes is when I need to rewrite my elevator pitch because it changes, right? Because you grow, so you need to adjust. But it's a very, very important step in the process, because you can, especially right now, when we have this competitive market right now, you need to review your past experiences, as I told you, analyze your skills, know the market and all of those stuff, but you also need to define the goal, like which jobs or companies, or I don't know, where are you going to work next? Like, what is your next dream job? And I'm not talking about this job, like, I don't know, in 10 years, right? I'm talking just about this next one, because your portfolio is not a report from the past. You are not reporting about your experiences or about number of projects you did, but it's more of a tool to inform your future, right? To sell yourself as a researcher or designer. It's like a marketing tool a bit. It's like, you are trying to convince someone to hire you, right? So you need to think about this. And in this point of strategizing, you're trying to define your profile as a researcher or as a designer. And a common output of this process is usually like some sort of an elevator pitch, this intro messages that you sometimes can see in portfolios. And sometimes I think the biggest problem with this stage is that people get too general about their profiles. And within this competitive market, we need to be really strategic and think about how we can make our elevator pitch more unique, how we can stand out, where are we going? Because there is, to be honest, no safe space here, no safe site, and there's nothing like, okay, I won't be, because sometimes designers tell me, oh, I won't be on the safe side, so I'm showing everything on, or I'm generalizing my pitch. There's nothing like this. You are unique with your own experiences and you need to find it. And it can take time. It can take some analysis of yourself. If you're a UX researcher, actually it's a perfect exercise for you, I think, because it's about researching yourself. The third point, after you know your profile and you know where you're want to go next, is to select your stories. And I'm specifically highlighting this point because sometimes it's neglected. And again, if you want to be strategic and if you want to optimize for time to value, because hiring managers are busy, you need to really be intentional about which part of the story you are talking about, which part of the project you will show, how you will show it, in which order as well in your portfolio. Because remember that you don't need to talk about everything. It's also usually can be quite overwhelming. You need to pick relevant stories. So for instance, as an example, it might be cool to show, I don't know, B2B projects if you're going to a B2B organization, right? There are different criteria for selecting projects. In my course, I think I have 5 or 6, but I think the most common one and the one that we talk about the most in the industry is the similarity, the relevance, meaning that what I told you right now, that B2B projects, B2B organization, or something like this. Even though that, of course, I am a big fan of hiring also for a potential, but this criterion, I think, unfortunately, sometimes takes the main role in this portfolio review process. And also think beyond projects, meaning that one project from work doesn't mean that doesn't equal one, or doesn't have to equal one case study or one project story in your portfolio, because you can break it down. You can show just a part of this. Really, it's on you to decide which part of the story you want to tell. And then you can actually outline your stories. First thought, probably for majority of us when we think about portfolios, is to write case studies. So think beyond case studies. You don't necessarily need to write a case study. If you don't need, you decide on the format. So think what is the best. Usually when you have less experience, you need to show more credibility, right? And then those case studies are needed because you don't have experience. Your resume will not sell you probably that much. So that's why you want to show more, but intentionally, not that you are showing more for the quantity, but more for a quality goal. And when you actually decide on writing some format of a case study, I recommend the 3-arc story structure, usually, because I found that it's my observation that it's really the simplest. And also think about picking interesting moments or changes that you made in the project. So I know you start with a problem. Don't talk about 100 problems you have researched or solved, but pick them, like select those problems. Select one problem, for instance, a few design changes, or maybe those insights that you have found out about the problem, and summarize with, I call it retrospective. And the reason for it is that you can tell more when you think about this outcome part and impact part as a retrospective, because sometimes we don't have numbers, right? And it's okay if you don't have metrics. Definitely don't lie, because hiring managers can find out if you're lying, or they can at least maybe on an interview ask you a follow-up questions about those numbers. So you can talk about a variety of things when it comes to your impact. That's why I talk about retrospective in this last part. And then when you have your profile, when you have selected the stories, when you outline them somehow. For outlining, actually, one more tip, I usually recommend people to write, define this story structure. It doesn't necessarily need to be this 3-arc story. It can be, I don't know, Freytag's pyramid, whatever, I don't know, whatever works best for your story. But try to maybe use headings, write them in bullet points, and then treat them as a story already. Those headings need to tell a story so that it would be easy for scanning for your users. And when you're writing, remember, don't write long reports. Even though you are a researcher, I'm not a UX researcher. I know that you will get more tips here in a sec. But I think even for you, even that your outputs are heavily based on some reports and writing and this type of presentation, you still need to distill this information so that it would be actually easy to consume. So that's the first one. Make story about you. Sometimes we forget about this. You are not selling a product, a feature you designed or researched, or you are not selling me what everyone in your team did. You are selling me you as a researcher or as a designer. So make your story about you. Use your story outline wisely, and definitely remember to explain your design decisions. If you're a designer, if you're a researcher, also explain why this, I don't know, this problem was the right problem to solve at this stage, and show your achievements. And remember that the story always has some start, a beginning, and an end, right? So make your story complete. Make it appealing for designers. Obvious thing, good first impression. If you are a UX researcher, I think I've seen this question on the list. You can still use some visuals. If you're using a visual of a product that another designer designed, you can always credit them. That's okay. Link to their LinkedIn profile or portfolio. Just, always give the source, and that would be okay, in my opinion. And actually, it can be better for your story, in my opinion. If you have complex diagrams or something like this, I always recommend for this portfolio, first, like online portfolio, to simplify this, because if there's just a couple of minutes or sometimes seconds, it's impossible to go through the very complex diagram, and it actually doesn't add a lot of value, because if someone can't understand anything from this, then why to show it? And remember that portfolio is a marathon. It's never done, and it's also never perfect. Like sometimes some designers or even researchers ask me, Aneta, what is your favorite portfolio example? To be honest, there's nothing like this, because it all depends. Every designer, researcher, you are all different. You represent a different profile, so it's really hard to compare it. And also, don't be so stressed about creating some sort of a perfect version. It doesn't exist. I recommend working in iterations. I don't know, maybe tomorrow you will sit and you will define your profile, write your elevator pitch, and for now that's it. But if you're going to send something and release, of course, try to create a complete version, in a sense that, okay, elevator pitch and some sort of showing your experience, right? So maybe it's a project story, but the project story doesn't need to be long, or case study. For your first portfolio release, it can be something short, and you can build on this like with any other product. To summarize this, first, we need to know our situation. Like a UX researcher, like a designer, we need to figure out what's going on, what has happened so far, what we get, what we have right now, like the skills, the experiences, and so forth. Set up your boss mindset, because it might give you a bit of confidence, and also a different approach to your portfolio when you actually own this. It's like at work. If you're seniors, you know what I'm talking about. You need to take the same approach to your portfolio. If you're juniors, then it will be the first time to become senior, to own the product, to own the project. Strategically build your portfolio. So start from understanding yourself and your situation, defining your profile, who you are, how you want others, hiring managers to perceive you. Like, for instance, if you write an elevator pitch, give it to someone and ask them, okay, so can you describe me, who is this person, who is this researcher, who is this designer? And you will figure out if your message is clear, or if this is like, this is like, I don't know, random designer or researcher from tech. It's high level, right? It's too high level. We want to go deeper, to be more precise. Practice also portfolio skills, because there are skills that are needed for a portfolio creation process, like storytelling in a written format, but also in a visual format, right? Those things, everything that you show in your portfolio, everything can tell a story. And keep going. Try to maybe maintain your portfolio somehow, or at least document maybe your projects so that you are prepared for any changes in your career when you need a new portfolio version. If you want to know more, I have this beautiful course already bought by 340 people, I think. Majority designers, but storytelling rules, and I talk also a lot about visual presentation and visual storytelling and strategizing your profile. All of those things are also relevant for researchers. I have prepared a dedicated code for you here. We have a community as well, and a free portfolio review for those who are quick. If you want to know more about this, reach out. You can find me on Instagram, ux.aneta, on LinkedIn, or I have a newsletter. Yeah, generally I reply to all messages. I am try to be super friendly, and I am very talkative sometimes. So I think it's time for questions.
You're like us. We also respond to all messages. Like, anything else is not polite, right? Thank you very much.
No worries.
Thank you for your generous discount. We actually, Aneta didn't, like we said, Aneta, maybe you can offer a discount to our audience. She said yes, but we didn't suggest anything. So 50%, I think, is very generous. I'm sure people will appreciate. So now regarding Q&A, I know there's already hands going up and stuff. We will do the Q&A with the written questions we have. And apologies for that, but we are a lot of people. It's 200. And last time we did a similar event, some of the airtime was in use for questions that were very specific about one problem, one person. And so that's why we have the Q&A. So we will read from that. If you have a specific question that was not answered, you can reach out to any of us, like Nina, yes, Aneta, or me, and we will make sure you get the answer, okay? So let me present now the questions we have gathered and that you have voted for. And we will triage here a little bit, depending what the question is, okay? So the first one is, with recruiters spending minimal time on portfolios, how can I present complex UX research projects engagingly? Tried the STAR method, but my portfolio still feels a bit dry.
No worries. I can start?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I think the STAR method is generally great, but probably, maybe, I assume the problem lies somewhere else. Maybe your portfolio is not scannable enough, and hiring managers, if you are highlighting this, even spending minimal time, they maybe don't get a story already from scanning. And we can assume that they will read everything what you have written in your portfolio. I'm not so sure about you guys, but I don't read everything. It depends how much time we have and how engaged we are in your portfolio. But generally, you can think about the top level elements in the visual hierarchy, like, for instance, headings, like, for instance, your elevator pitch. Maybe this is not clear. And if you have this project, maybe test it if you take out those headings, so the most visible elements, like when you scroll down, for instance, through a website, the visual part, the, I don't know, images, something what's moving, I don't know, and the the large headings are the most visible. It's like just how we usually react, because those body descriptions are quite small, right? So try to check if you get a story already from the headings. This was this exercise I told you about in bullet points. I usually just try to write my story, for instance, in bullet points, and then I treat those bullet points as headings in my story, for instance, for a case study. That might be a problem. If they read more, maybe it's not that visual as well. Maybe you're trying to, I know, show a report a bit like you're maybe writing too much. There are a lot of other also tricks for scannability, because this might be a case if there is very little time. Not only this visual hierarchy, but it can be also how you structure your text, like how you structure your paragraph. There's something called writing rhythm. You can Google this. That can also help with scannability of your text in your portfolio.
I would just like to add from the research perspective, I think, because the question was like for research portfolios, right? Oftentimes what we see is that the story is not clear enough yet because there's too much detail. So think about like, how can you, like, what are the key points of the story that you need to bring? Don't fall into the trap of like showing every detail of like the methods that you used, of the respondents' profiles, whatever. The key, as Aneta explained, the key thing that a hiring manager wants to take away from the portfolio is to understand what was the problem that you solved, how does that relate to the kinds of problems that we're trying to solve, and you need to fit your story into that, right? A problem description, what you did without the details, really just roughly the meta-analysis of what you have done and what you bring to the table in this new role. So if it feels it's still long, it's still not engaging, that's probably because you haven't worked out the core story yet. So that needs more work. You need to cut the fluff and get to the point of the story, probably.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to select those stories, to prioritize actually. And I know it's difficult. No worries, it's difficult for everyone.
And I think it's something that, especially for researchers, it's hard to let go of the details.
Yeah, I can imagine. Actually, I have a tip for this. If you want to show more, maybe try to use a different format. For instance, a hyperlink or something to additional file where you can add more information, so that you can feel like, oh, I shared everything, but you are not overwhelming hiring manager, in this first view.
Yes, I mean, last thing, it's pretty much the same, but like as researchers, we have been trained to tell the truth as good as possible, right? And so for researchers, it's very difficult to leave out things of a story because you're feeling that you're not actually telling the truth, right? But for a portfolio, that's exactly what you need to do, right? Because the details don't matter, and and the completeness doesn't matter. Right? It only matters that you tell a good story. So it can be only glimpses into your research and your process from problem to defining the research plan to conducting, analyzing, reporting. Just having glimpses into that tell a good story, even if you basically left out 80% of what you think you should report as a researcher. That's fine in the context of a portfolio. All right, let's go to the next question. You folks are still voting. I think that's awesome. So, but we will have to check a little bit how the questions move. I think what was second is now first. What specific qualities in a UX research portfolio make a hiring manager think I need to speak with this person? I think we answered a bunch of those already, but maybe to complete this, a research portfolio is not that different to a design portfolio. At the end, you're trying to show your skills and your process, right? You're trying to show that you are a researcher, you know how to do that, right? And so showing, if you have 2 to 3 projects, showing projects where you apply different methods is a good thing. If you have even better, different products, different users, like different facets of your skills is good. Always telling a story where you went from a clear problem statement to how you generated the answers into what the answers led to, like what they were used to. Is something that is appealing to a hiring manager, because if they can quickly see, oh, this is a researcher that knows how to do research, how to apply it, and how to have impact, that's obviously the most interesting things. Sometimes people think that it's a particular method, like, oh, they need to have, I don't know, survey skills, else they won't be hired. Or they need to have a particular thing that somebody told them that is super sexy. Remember that hiring managers are different the same way our users are different, the same way designers are different. And so you might sometimes find a hiring manager that is looking for a specific thing, but that is not generalizable. So don't obsess over that. Stick to the storytelling that Aneta showed you and tell a good story, and then that will be a good start.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Aneta, Nina?
Yeah, actually, can I add something? It's just to add a bit more. For instance, I know that it's very hard, and I know that you are always looking for this best method, best template. I know it. We all do it. I also ask people about best tools and all of those. It's very natural. But there's nothing like this, and I can maybe give you an example from a totally different topic. Imagine that you are, I don't know, and that you want to release a product. I'm not talking about portfolio. General, or for instance, educational product. Maybe that's an example. Generally, we live in this moment that we own a lot of knowledge. We have internet, we have AI tools, we can have the information like this. So that's why you will never probably find a specific method that will shine, because it's about the results, right? So that's the first thing. And the second is also how you tell the story. That's why we are looking for more uniqueness. And also, as an example, for instance, if you go online, when you look for on all of us who write content, share some stuff, we sometimes share the same information. If you would compare, sometimes there's very similar tips, but we share them in a different way, for instance, right? We, for instance, add our personal story to this, or we maybe frame the wording differently, or we even show it differently. These are the things that can make you unique among those other candidates. Sometimes I even had one tip about picking, if you have a general word that you're using and it's very generic, from a UX theory, you can think about maybe a synonym word so that it can be more visible, because we are optimizing for time to value, right? So it's very hard for us to pick up your uniqueness if you are showing me the same stuff, kind of like any other candidate. So just a different perspective.
Thank you, Aneta. All right, let's go to the next question. There's another. How should a UX research portfolio be different from a UX design portfolio? UXers have none or little visuals and need more text to describe the research process and insights. How to tackle this? Should I go, or do you want Nina or Aneta?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right. So in general, I don't think that a design portfolio is super different than a research portfolio. Yes, you have not as many visuals, but then again, very often you do work with visuals designers created, which you can also show because you have done research with them, right? In the case where you actually have done research with something that was designed. And you might have other visuals, such as showing data in a graph, or visualizing research data in other ways, right? So you finding ways to visualize some of your insights and make them easily scannable and digestible is certainly a good thing. Yes, you might need also some words to describe that, but designers do that too. The good design portfolios are not the ones that have only UI models and stuff. They actually tell a story the same way you as a researcher should. So that's why I think they're not that different. You're just showing the research process, and designers are showing the design process. But the main rules apply to both. You need to tell a story in a very short time about your skills, so hiring managers can get excited about what you can do.
Yeah. Maybe to add to what you just said, exactly. I think the storytelling rules and everything are they are generally the same. Also showing who you are, what's your profile. It's generally the same. Maybe if I would pick one key element that from my perspective is a bit different, is the focus of your story. If you talk about the project, as a designer, I try to show the designs I've designed and why I made certain design decisions. And for a UX research role, you will be talking about, I don't know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but if this is the right problem, why this is the problem that you've picked for this, how it looks like with other problems. Maybe because you are trying to focus on showing that you can do your job, right? So I am focusing on my core story on showing, okay, this is the solution for this problem. This is why I solved this that way. And you are, I don't know, somewhere before this, and also maybe for testing, depending on what you're showing, you can be more precise with actually highlighting the job that you will be doing in your role.
Okay.
Good.
Wonderful. So I tried to jump up, like it always jumps down when somebody submits.
Yeah, it's dynamic, right? We can vote.
A little nervous.
Dynamic.
Okay, then there is one. Let me see. The common mistakes UX research portfolios cause hiring managers to lose interest. We had that before. I'll just repeat it very quickly. The most common mistake researchers do is to provide too much detail, too much of the process, like every little thing, like every little information they think is important and needs to go into a research report should also be in the portfolio. And that is not the thing. You don't have to tell a complete story. You can basically just show one insight or two or three insights, right? And how you derive them and what the impact was. It is not about like the full story of your research. It is about a story that you're telling.
Yeah.
The next one goes to you, Aneta. How can I make a case study scannable? What punctual action should I take to achieve this?
Yeah, love this question. I already shared some stuff, and I shared, by the way, in the chat. I just googled this article that can tell you a bit more about the writing rhythm that can help you make your portfolio a bit more scannable. This is actually a great technique, and I've learned it because I became a content creator. So this part of my life also is quite helpful for a portfolio. So I definitely recommend you check this out. Basically, in a nutshell, writing rhythm is about making your text scannable by dividing and chunking this into like scannable pieces of text, not like putting like the whole block of text, because if I'm not going to read it, right, I can't quickly scan it unless you highlight maybe a word, right, or maybe you break it down so that I can quickly start one paragraph, one part of a text and another that I can distinguish them because there is space, for instance. The most common writing rhythm is 1-1-3-1. This is how they call it. So basically, but you can generally have, I don't know, 4 sentences inside this core part of your paragraph. I'm talking about the paragraph, for instance. But basically, you start with some sort of introduction, like 1 sentence. Then we have a few sentences about the core part, and then you conclude it somehow. And you can read about this. This is like a whole topic. So this is definitely a tip. Scannability can also come from basically visual hierarchy, right? So you need to, if you are a UX researcher or anyone who doesn't feel super strong in visual design, you can try to look for some templates. Just be careful with not picking the first one or because those templates tend to be repetitive. I've seen some repetitive templates, and then it gets a bit boring for a reviewer. Really, if you want to know about this particular template that I've seen in a few portfolios, you can reach out to me. But basically, you can always customize the template as well. So maybe if you don't have skill, try to pick a template and maybe ask your colleague, like a designer, who can tell you if this looks good, if this looks visually okay, if this can be scannable, if you can use it if you don't have this skill. Of course, you can upskill. I recommend to read about this a bit more. But I think this is one way to deal quickly with this issue. So we have visual hierarchy, we have this writing rhythm, also basically readability. So for instance, I think this is maybe a good tip. Please just don't show us those blurry images. I know that it's very natural to just show, I don't know, screenshots from a whiteboard with all the sticky notes around, or from the Figma file. I did it myself, so no worries. And I didn't see a problem with this, because I thought the goal is to show that I just did a work and not like focus on this. But actually, if you think about this intentionally, you are not communicating anything, because if this is blurry and not readable, it's like not informing me about, to be honest, anything. And we all use the same method, we all do this design or research work. So you need to really be picky and intentional about what you show. So making this readability in place, it can be also helpful for making your portfolio more scannable. Also, like how you select fonts, that should be rather simple, not irreadable. This type of things can help. Of course, something like accessibility rules, like color contrast, right? This can also be helpful.
And it also helps because you avoid creating frustration on the side of the hiring manager, right? Especially that example that Aneta mentioned with blurry images, where you see something and you're curious about it, you want to read it, and then you can't. It's really frustrating, and that might bias somebody against you. So you want to avoid that.
Yeah.
This is an interesting point, Aneta, because I actually never thought about it that way. Like the pictures with the sticky notes are so common. I think almost all portfolios have them.
We
and
love
I never
them.
thought about it. But I actually never look at them, right? So the main function there is like, oh, did one of those sticky notes exercises, but there might be better ways to use your visuals, like in that space, to convey actually a message, and then maybe say somewhere that you did like a standard design thinking workshop or something. That's never thought about this. So thanks. I'm learning with you.
No worries. No, you optimize for time to value. So it's also a waste of space and time.
Yeah.
You right?
Yeah. Okay, then what should I do if my project didn't have any success metrics or positive outcomes? Perhaps the ask was to just fulfill the job, contract, or make the client happy so they don't leave.
No worries. You're not alone. Should I start?
Go ahead, Aneta. Yeah, I will give a very politically not correct answer, so you go first with the correct one.
No, I am also like not all my answers are very politically correct, just saying, but I will try to be professional. Anyway, generally, where is this question? Here. So, I think there's a huge obsession over numbers in our industry, and especially right now when we like business focus on growth and like delivering outcomes, which I think, of course, it's very logical, and I agree that we need to show outcome, but you don't necessarily need a number always. If you don't have the number, you just don't have the number, and you need to be more creative about showing your impact, because the goal is not to show the number, the metric, but the goal is to show that you can help business grow, that you can make an impact, that you have achievements. And achievements can come from a variety of things. So that's why I told you that I called this last stage of the story in a project, or maybe the beginning, even depending on how you structure your story, retrospective. Because in product development, we have the retrospective, right? We meet with the team and we kind of reflect on the project. And you need to do the same, but you need to think not about, okay, what I'm going to improve next, whatever. No, you need to think about, okay, what were my achievements? Maybe if you're looking for numbers, have you done any testing? Maybe you have some numbers from user testing and you can communicate those numbers, of course, highlighting that this is a potential impact because this was testing numbers. This is the first idea. You can also talk about hypothetical metrics, sometimes even highlighting which area of which metric category you are impacting. For instance, if this was about user engagement or acquisition, even this thing is like one step ahead of many people, because usually we focus on learnings. If we don't have numbers, we try to share just learnings. And I think if you want to be more unique, you can be more creative. So maybe numbers from user testing, maybe just informing more about, okay, which area you are impacting. You can also talk about other areas of impact, not only impact on users, business, and product. Maybe it's about the processes that's in an organization, depending if this is relevant for the role you're applying and showing yourself. You can also mention a variety of impact. For instance, I remember in one project, I remember that I impacted a decision of a product manager, and I talked about this in my retrospective part. So you can think broadly about this.
Yes, and so the question was also like, what if there was no impact, like no impact or no positive outcome, right? Which is obviously maybe the most extreme case. And here I would like to say something I said multiple times also in these sessions, right? It's important for you to embrace that interviewing is not a game of truth, okay? Like the employer will not tell you the truth about the job, the company, the culture, your future manager, the challenges. They will tell you a lot of good stuff about the role because they want you to take the job. And similarly, for you, you do not have to share all the truth and like harm yourself in that process, right? So if your work didn't have any positive outcome, right, you would be insane to say that because that will damage you, right? And there's always ways to say something positive about what you did, even if it's not the truth. I give you an example, right? So you did this new interface, right? And it actually never launched, right? You gave it to the client, but it never launched, right? So you cannot claim that this launched, right? So you say this interface was highly effective. We tested it, and the customer was like very happy. And then later on, they used this as a baseline to develop this next version or something like that. They used this to inform the next step. They use this to inform the roadmap, right? And then they ask you, well, did it launch? Yeah, I don't know, because I don't work with a customer anymore, or like, I don't know, the company went bust or whatever it is, right? But you can basically tell something about the impact of your work, even if it's not completely true, that tells a good story. And that is part of you selling yourself the same way a company sells themselves, by telling you that they're the most amazing company in the world, and that your manager is the best and the team is super, right? And then when you go there, you figure out that only a third of that was true and the rest not. Okay, we have time for one more. Which one is it? For a UX research portfolio, how deep should the methodology or thinking be presented?
Not deep.
Not deep, yes.
I think we covered that.
Standard methods, they know. Like, you do not have to explain what a survey is or a usability test. If you change any method and you applied it differently, maybe some of that you want to present, right? But at the end, you're talking to UXers, right? So if you're talking to UXers, you do not have to explain standard methods. The same way like the sticky notes, right? You don't have to explain what a design thinking workshop is. People know that. So don't waste your space for that. That would be my opinion. Aneta?
Yeah, I think, we all use the same methods, ultimately. It's maybe they're interpreted differently. Maybe you were in a project where this, I don't know, you didn't go through, for instance, this exploratory research and you just tested. But we kind of use the same stuff. So it's not very, usually at least, it's not very unique if you focus on deeply on methodologies. I think you can mention them if this is important for you, but I wouldn't treat it as a main story plot. I would rather focus on your achievements, how you navigate it, because you are not selling the method. You are selling how you use this method to achieve specific goals, right? So this is how I would think about this.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Aneta, for doing this, for offering also.
No worries.
To everyone, I always say this, these are difficult times. The job market is difficult. I know many of you are frustrated and it's difficult situations. Remember, like, believe in your skills and what you can achieve. We're all here to help, and this will get better one day. So we just need to power through. And so we see the light at the end of the tunnel. If you have any more questions we didn't answer, reach out without shame to Nina, to Aneta, to me. We answer all messages because we're decent beings, and that's a decent thing to do. And we will publish this recording if you missed anything in a couple of days. And share it out over email and on LinkedIn. All right.
And be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. As a community, we get through this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice one. Thank you so much.
And I wish you warm weather. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.